Hi, I'm Chris Cheney, and welcome to week 18 of the Milan Art Mastery Program. I'm only halfway through the week, but I guess I just wanted to talk about where I'm at, and then we'll do some magic video editing when I get to the end of the week. This week, we are working with mixed media and voice, and we're working with inks, so on paper. So last week we had an introduction to how to combine acrylics and oil paints. And then this week we're doing inks on paper. Then you seal the paper, put acrylics on, and then you put oils on. And I think I bought the wrong kind of ink. I just found some ink in my studio, and when I went to seal the paper, it reactivated and kind of smudged the ink around. And then I couldn't find acrylic inks, so I ended up buying fluid acrylics, which I don't have any here. And I think they're thicker than inks. Anyway, so I used some, I played around and I used some black ink, which was really cool. I put it on wet paper and kind of flicked it with a brush and kind of got these spots. That was quite nice. And on this one, you can't even see it anymore, but I brushed it around. You can kind of see it here. Brushed it around and then sprayed water and surface tension breaker on to sort of let it ooze or spread, and then the color kind of separates, and then I just did some paint splatters and stuff. So I got some pretty cool effects with inks. And sealed the paper, and then I've done this with acrylics. So while I was, with my work, I like to use collage. So while I was sealing the paper, I put in some collage elements. So this is actually tracing paper that I spray painted on. And so so this is spray paint on the front, and then this writing here is actually on the back of the tracing paper. And then you can still see the spots that were on, this piece of paper before, through the tracing paper. So there's some pretty cool, layered effects that you can get if you want to collage with tracing paper. But I wanted to show you what these look like before I put the oil paints on, because I quite like this. So if I was just leaving this as an acrylic painting, then I would just work on the eyes. I like this watercolor effect here, but actually the iris of the eye, I would sort of make that, I guess my style, so I would render that a bit more saturated color. And the glasses, I would sort of render this a bit better, and then the lips. And then the rest of it, to be honest, I would leave. So I like to use Posca pens to essentially to draw on my paintings. So I like a lot of sort of cross hatching, and then this is like a gold Posca pen. And so with this, and this is also like a gold Posca pen over there to sort of get the highlights. So with this, when I put oil paints on it, I'm a little bit worried about losing that gold because I don't have gold oil pens, although they may exist. So I don't want to lose this sort of graphic nature, but what I'm going to try and do is do a glaze on the figure to pop her forward from the background. And then that'll give me a good visual on sort of what oil paints look like compared to just acrylics, to really see, are they richer and what does it look like? And if I just do oil on part of it, does it pop it forward in front of the acrylic? So I'll probably do a glaze here, and then opaques just in the eyes and the glasses and the lips, and then leave the rest as a glaze. They did say to do 2 paintings this week and to try and approach them differently. So these are a bit different, quite different. This one, so one thing Ellie said was to, with your acrylic layers, to have them a bit overblown, because then when you do the glaze, you can tone it down or you can modify the color. So this is neon green paint, and this is quite saturated. So I think when I'll do this, I'll do a glaze of maybe kind of blues and purples to sort of make this neon a little bit more blue and tone it down. And then I'll glaze the whole thing. So we'll do cools for the background. And then this is hard to tell, but this is actually like her arm. That's her arm there. She's wearing a cardigan, and that's her skin. And then we'll do, so we'll do warms and cools in the hair to bring the hair forward and back. And then I don't know how much opaques I'm going to do on this. Probably more opaques on this. So that is that. And I guess, so I'll show you Um, one thing that I guess has come out doing this way is that with my acrylic paintings, like if I know it's just an underlayer, then I'm a bit more loose with it, a little bit more expressive. So this is just really loose brush strokes. I haven't bothered to blend any lights and darks and stuff. So I think it does help me get looser. And then when I go over it with the oils, I can just do a glaze and not sort of over render it, or I could over render it. The last piece I did, the hands were quite loose, and then the eyes were kind of like over rendered. So I have to work on that and sort of take that back, make that looser again. So anyway, I will see you when these pieces are done and have their oil layer on. All right. Hi. Okay, we're back. So I've completed my paintings, and what we'll do is we'll just sort of go through what we did all week, and then I'll talk about these paintings. So first, we started off experimenting with inks on paper. So these are a few different experiments. I had the wrong kind of ink, so I had some black ink that I found in my studio, and it wasn't acrylic ink, it was like calligraphy ink, which makes sense considering where I got it from. And it definitely produced some really cool effects. I really like the way the colors sort of bleed, and it's almost a bit iridescent and sort of gray, and then it sort of bleeds out to brown at the edges. So I actually really enjoyed that effect. And then these are, hang on. These are fluid acrylics, and I think they're a little bit denser than inks. So I did water these down a little bit. So I mixed a bit of, I just got primary colors, and so I mixed a bit of red and blue and sort of got purple and kind of watered it down, and then used it on the paper, and then the colors kind of separated and settled. So you've got purple, and then the red kind of bleeds out. So we definitely got some pretty cool effects. This is, I put some bubble wrap over the inks. I don't know if you can see that texture there. Anyway, and then this is resist or frisket. So I played with different ways to apply that. So this is like a paint scrape. This was kind of a dry brushing. Used it to write. I didn't have a pen. You can get like a frisket pen, which is really cool because then you can just draw or write on it and you get like this really fine, precise line. So I think that would be fun to play with. Okay, so then we did these paintings. We did the inks, then we sealed the paper, and we did the acrylics, and you've seen all that. And then this is the oil over the top. So I definitely prefer this one. This is my new, this is Holbein's Quinacridone Opera, and it's like a hot pink. So that's kind of what this is over the top with these strips. What to say about this? I definitely like this one. It's a little bit more stylized, and the reason it worked quite well, I think, is because the inks that I put on in the background were just really light and subtle. And then when I put the form in, the inks weren't competing against the sort of the lights and the darks of the form. And I, just before I put the oil paints on, I did go over with like a gold Posca pen to sort of bring out these lines and make it a little bit more graphic. And then I was worried when I put the oils over the top, I was worried that I would lose that gold, but I managed to keep it. It kind of comes and goes, but it's pretty good. With this one, you will have seen it at the acrylic stage. The inks were all over the whole piece. So when I put the face in, the lights and darks were just, you couldn't read it, right? So even if I put the darks in, and even if I put the lights in, the areas where her face was mid-tone was quite dark because the background ink was quite dark. So essentially, I had to paint over the whole thing to be able to get those mid-tones in. And I think I'll go, I think I'm gonna, before I release this, I will make some changes because she's quite brown. I was trying to do more neutral colors with just some bright color pops instead of having everything just really bright and colorful, because that's kind of trying to refine my taste. But she looks really brown. I just look at her and I just think, oh, she looks really brown. She does have some pinks and peaches in here, but I think I need to bring those out a little bit more. So some of the other artists who do that, they'll do a background and then they put the figure over the background. They haven't really said that they use midtones for the background, But when the pieces that I did before I started this program, the blue and the pink piece, for just the way my brain works, the reason those were so successful is because I did the whole background in midtones. And then when I put the faces in, I put in the darks and the lights, and then wherever the midtone was on the face, you could just let the background come through because it wasn't competing with the lights and the darks. So I think I'm just gonna have to stick to that because that's just how my brain works. So the other thing that we did, I don't have much to show for this, but we created Pinterest boards. So she had us go through and create a board that was our personal aesthetic, which is more to do with photography that we like. So it wasn't really about subject matter. It was just about looking through photos and seeing what we feel in our gut about what we really like and what we connect with. And then we did a board that was art that we want to emulate. So looking at other artists and thinking, oh, I really like the way they've done that brush stroke. I like the way that they've combined those colors. Oh, I really like the way they've layered that. So I created that board and then wrote notes about what specifically I liked about that piece that I would want to try out. And then we created another board, which was artwork that we'd want to have in our home. And that is oftentimes artwork that's quite different from what we make or what we want to make. So there are some artists, mostly I find these artists on Instagram and then I have to look them up on Instagram and then find them on Pinterest. But there's definitely some artists, and that art is meant to feel like, not a gut punch, but just really nice. And she described it as like a hug. I don't know. But what I found was with my personal aesthetic, it was all like jewel tones for one. So I guess trying to make a conscious decision to lean into those jewel tones, but also incorporate enough neutrals that my work isn't like too colorful and offensive. Because I do find that people like my work, but then maybe it's too colorful, they don't actually want to live with it. I don't know. And all the photographs they're all landscapes. So they're all landscapes, and usually there's like a road or a path that's like going off into the distance. So that just goes to show that your personal aesthetic is not necessarily what your subject matter is. Because I would never paint, I hate painting landscapes, I would not paint a landscape. So anyway, so that was week 18, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I, can kind of get a little bit more creative and have, start making work that's a little bit more me, even though we're still really experimenting. But the other thing I've started doing is after each artwork, so I've got a file on my iPad where when I'm finished with each artwork, I sit down with it and then I reflect on what do I like about it, what do I not like about it, what do I like about the finished piece, what do I like about the process or the materials, stuff like that, so that I can start to I guess get a clearer picture of how I like to work and what I like to make. So anyway, this was week 18, and if you like what you see and you want to know more, you can follow my journey on YouTube. I've got a blog on my website, so there'll be a link there, and you can follow it there. And I will see you next week. All right, have fun.